But here's another guy who is just as fired up, wanting to burn the place down, just like you, Mario. He is upset. You upset your Broncos laws. He's upset that his Alabama, Roll Tide, for some reason did not do what most people in college football expected him to do. Ladies and gentlemen, account executive Bobby Wesson.
I see a lot of sad singing and flower bringing. A lot of sad faces. People act like someone died. And to you I say, Roll Tide. It's easy to roll tide when you're on the mountain. It's hard to roll tide in the valley, but that is when you should roll tide. It's easy to roll tide on the road to 16. It's hard to roll tide back at square one, but that is when you should roll tide. It's easy to roll tide when you're high. It's hard to roll tide when you're low, but that is when you need to roll tide. I want you to look at the person to the left of you and say, Roll Tide. Look at the person to the right of you and say, Roll Tide. Roll Tide. I want you to remind them that although on January 1 we did not win, we did on the third Saturday in October when we beat Tennessee, and say, Roll Tide. I want you to remind them that although we will not play for a national championship, we did win the state championship when we beat Auburn, and say, Roll Tide. I want you to remind them that although we did not win on New Year's Day, that there will be a new day, and say, Roll Tide. Roll Tide. Roll Tide.
Now, Bobby, explain to our listeners what made you decide to make this video.
Good morning, Nick. I appreciate you having me on. I was hurting that morning. My friends, my family, my brothers, my sisters, all of them were hurting that morning. And someone had to say something, and that someone was me. Now, I didn't know it was going to get the kind of views that it did. It was going to get the kind of reach that it did. And if it did, Nick, I would have done a better job. But I woke up that morning, and I was sad. My wife was sad. The guy on the drive time radio show was sad. The mailman was sad. My dog was sad, Nick. He didn't even lift his leg to pee. It just wriggled down his leg like he had nothing to live for. And I wanted to speak to the fan base, the real Alabama fans that have been there in the low time and have still said Roll Tide.
Well,
the
you know
folks
what?
that know that your Roll Tide will not be judged in the light of day, but in the dark of night, when though it be reviled and every syllable spat upon, you still Roll Tide. 12-2, and we beat Auburn. That's a great season. Roll Tide. We may have ran out of time in New Orleans, but we went to overtime in Baton Rouge and we beat LSU. Roll Tide.
You know what? I the more I see the video, the more I look at it and I say, well, here's a fan who loves his team. He decided instead of going out frustrated, breaking things, yelling at the kid, kicking the dog, he decided to take to social media and air his grievance. And what I thought was, a profound way to do it. It was kind of hilarious to me in the form of how you chose to do it. Now, tell me this. Now, is everyone in your household a Roll Tide fan? And if they're not, how did you use the Jedi mind trick to persuade them to Roll Tide?
Well, you can't pick your family, Nick. We all know that. Some people, we have drug addicts in our family. You got people that might be less than reputable in your family, and then worse than God forbid, you may have an Auburn fan in your family. And if you do, my heart goes out to you because I've been there. I know how it is sitting around Thanksgiving trying to share a meal with these type of people. It's hard. It's something that you deal with every day here in this rivalry. Because unlike other rivalries, Ohio State and Michigan's a big one, we see these people every day. We work with them. We are in relationships with them. We're friends with them. And, if we order fries at McDonald's, an Auburn fan hands that to you. And you don't want to see that face if you lose that game. So you try your best to make them see the light, the same way you would with anyone you cared about. Like a good Christian person would. You're concerned about their soul. You don't want them to live their life like that. There's a better way. So you do your best to try and bring them over. But, we're not always successful, Nick. Roll Tide. We do what we can.
In the military, they have a saying. In the Marines, it's honor, corps, God, country. In the southern east region of the country, it seems as it goes, Bear Bryant, Nick Saban, Alabama Crimson Tide, and everyone else. Why is it that football, football is so big in the state of Alabama?
That's a good question. It's been asked many times and answered by better men than me, but I'll do my best to try and answer the question. Nick, it's part of our culture. It's ingrained in us. You make that allegiance to a team before you're trusted with making decisions about what lunchbox I'm going to take to school and what I'm going to put inside of. They won't trust you with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich over ham, but you make the decision that's going to guide the rest of your life as to what fan base you're going to be a part of. And it's going to affect you in some very important ways. It's going to decide, friendships, relationships, promotions, who you marry, how you schedule your day on Christmas and Thanksgiving, and what you buy for those people. It's not a decision that should be taken lightly. And it's not one that you can backtrack on either. I know these people that, at about age 25 or 30, they decide they want to be a Bama fan. And we've got a lot of that in the Southeastern Conference, too. We've got a lot of bandwagon fans that quietly took off that crimson and traded it out for some Oregon green after we lost that game to Ohio State. But, like I say, your Roll Tide is the loudest when hearts are at their lowest. And your Roll Tide is the only Roll Tide that can be heard. It's loud when there's 100,000 fans behind you screaming. It's easy to do that on the road to 16. It's hard to Roll Tide back at square one. It's hard to Roll Tide when you're the only one that's doing it, but that's when your Roll Tide counts, Nick.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Secondary Perspective. We're joined by Alabama superfan Bobby Weston, and we're talking about his video, his Roll Tide video. Now, we've debated constantly on this program about college football and the SEC. And I've said it myself that I'm not a true believer that the SEC is the best conference in college football. Now we have the new college football playoff format. And there are many people that have said that now that this format has been in place, this is now the end of an era for SEC football. Do you agree with that?
Well, let me tell you, Nick, the college football playoff is new to most of the country. But to the Southeastern Conference, we've had a default playoff for the last decade. We called it the SEC Championship Code. Whoever has won the SEC Championship and has gone on to win the national title 7 straight years. And then we had another team that played Florida State, and they didn't do it. And, Wisconsin and Ohio State and the Big Ten, they got them a championship this year. They've won 1 out of 9, Nick. Now, let me ask you a question. If you got in your car and started it, and it only cranked up 1 out of 9 times, how would you feel about that car, Nick?
I might have take that car back in and get my money back.
Well, if you went to a doctor and he only cured 1 out of 9 patients, is that the man that you want to see?
No,
depends how good the one is. I mean, if the one dude that he helps has cancer and he takes it away, I'll give that doctor a shot. The blind squirrel found a nut.
You make a good point, but all other things being even, and let's say that the cure was standard across all of them. One does not a dominant conference make. One does not a dominant team make. Show me 5 in a row. Go ahead and get these pundits to write out your death sentence and eulogy and just hang it on the wall and wait for the day that they can print it. Look at it every morning, and this might be it. Excited about the SEC going down. Excited to say the king is dead. The king is not dead, Nick. As long as cornbread's still cooked in grandma's kitchens and Nick Saban is coaching at Alabama, the SEC is going to be strong. And no matter how many championships are won by these other teams, you're still chasing Bama. I can't count the number of championships on all my fingers. I need 5 more. 15.
That's true.
You know what? There were some people that were sad about Alabama losing. There was one person that was happy down here. You know, Ohio State fans were happy. Oregon fans were happy. A lot of these talking heads and pundits were happy.
Georgia Tech fans were happy too, right,
was
Nick?
the cleaning lady at the Alabama Sports Complex, because Nick, she's got a hard job polishing all that hardware and all those trophies. She gets home late every night. You know, the gravy on the mashed potatoes has that film on the top of it. No one wants to eat that. She gets behind on all of her shows. She has the DVR Empire, and they hold her hands over her head when her friends are talking about it because she got caught up. She has to work late every day. I'm going to start a Kickstarter for the cleaning lady at the Alabama Sports Complex and get her some help, Nick.
Make sure that you eat those potatoes before the gravy gets too solid.
You know what, Bobby, you are killing me right now.
Roll Tide.
I mean, yeah. Hey, you know what? I'm going to use Roll Tide. I'm not an Alabama fan. I'm a Georgia Tech guy. But it just seemed like that word, that phrase, Roll Tide, has now been kind of imprinted into our verbiage. Maybe they should put that in a dictionary as an adjective or something that you can use for anything. You know, how did Jim play today in the basketball? Hey, he was sensational. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, feller.
Roll Tide. Well, Bobby, once again, if you haven't seen the video, I'm going to post it on social media. You have to check it out. It's a fan's inspirational comments to the fan base to tell them never lose sight of what the goal is. And the fact that because we lost one game doesn't necessarily mean the program is in the dumpster. You have Nick Saban. I mean, he goes into a kid's living room and he can recruit anyone. All he has to say is, Roll Tide. That's it. Get up and walk out. So, Bobby, once again, thank you for joining the program. I appreciate it. We got to have you back on sometime later when college football season and is in full swing. And in typical Bama fashion, for Bobby Wesson, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. It was my pleasure, Nick. I enjoyed it. Call me back anytime.
All right,
appreciate it.
Roll Tide.